Hello, this is Jonathan Agnew. Welcome to the Test Match Special podcast. With me are the former England bowler Tymal Mills and our regular statistician Andy Zaltzman. Greetings to you both. Let's get a thought on that Bairstow innings. Shall we start with you, Tymal? It looked lost, that game, if we're honest.
Yeah, it was. You're right, in the power play, South Africa bowled really well. There was some early turn there for the debutant, Linda. But yeah, England found themselves 3 down at the end of the power play, which is never usually a good place to be in. But with this England batting lineup, you're never out of the game, and Ben Stokes and Johnny Bairstow in particular proved that tonight.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we all know that Bairstow wants to open. It's what he wants to do. And he's got out there, his chest puffed out, batting at number 4. And he's batted like this, and no doubt he'll be thinking, there you go, that'll show you. But actually, it's rather proved the selector's point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. As you say, the only thing it's proved that he should be one of the first names on the team sheet for me.
Yes.
Whether he's batting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever it is, he's proving that he can deliver, time and time again. But yeah, you're right. It looks like he may have just kind of rubber stamped himself in at number 4 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he does play spin well, and we'll talk about T20 World Cups and so on in India. Maybe that's a good thing. Andy Zaltzman, greetings to you.
Hello, Waggers.
Now then, have you been excited by what you've seen today statistically? You usually are.
Well, even the dullest of games has some fascinating stats, Aggers, if you're someone like me, and this was far from a dull game. It was an excellent game of T20, and well, Bairstow's innings, to put it in some statistical context, 86 not out in a winning chase, the third best by an England batsman in a successful chase in T20 internationals. The other two by Alex Hales, who was opening, and the fourth best by a player from any country in T20 internationals in a winning chase when batting at 4 or lower, behind an innings by Kemp of South Africa in 2007 and 2 more recent innings from Glenn Maxwell. So it was a rare innings to score 86 in a successful chase, batting at 4. And you mentioned how Bairstow's been shuffled around the order for England. He's now got 50s in T20s at 2, 3, 4 and 5. And he's batted 3, 4, 5 and 6 for England in tests, T20s and one-day internationals. So in all 3 formats, he's batted in those positions as well as others in each of them. But in all 3 formats, 4 different positions in the batting order. And before today, he'd scored just 29 runs in 4 innings batting at 4 in T20. So that was quite a long time ago, early in his career. So it was a terrific innings and had some nice stats attached to it.
Yeah, excellent. I'll just run through the flow of the game for people who weren't following it. England won the toss, put South Africa in. And, you could see who'd been playing IPL, basically. Du Plessis played really fluently, 58 from 40 balls, De Kock 30. There's a nice innings of Van der Dusen, though, 37 from 28 balls. A bit of a mix of a night for the Currans. Sam Curran, 3 for 28, his best bowling figures for England. Tom Curran, 1 for 55 from his 4. He went for 16 off his last. Adi Rashid, very tidy as usual, 4 overs 27. So 180 to win. It looked about par, actually, from our perspective at least. In no time at all, England were 27 for 2. Roy was out for 0. Linda, the debutant, getting a wicket with just his second ball. He actually bowled the first over at Roy. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Milan, he also claimed, well caught by Rabada for 19. 34 for 3 then in the 6th, and it seemed to be slipping away. Stand of 85 between Bairstow and Stokes, who made 37. He was out at 119 for 4, so 61 needed from 5 overs. It looked very much to be South Africa's game. Up stepped Byron Hendricks, who delivered an over, the 17th, which will haunt him, I suspect, for a very long time. 28 came from it. It was just, bowlers all everywhere will just have felt for him. It was a horrible over. It just looked as the pressure had got to him. There's a horrendous 5 wides delivery that didn't land on the cut part of the pitch. It just looked to me as if the pressure had got to him. It was a match-changing over. It really was. From that point on, it was it, although England lost Morgan for 12. Johnny Bairstow hit a 6 to finish it with 4 balls to spare. So England winning by 5 wickets. That's the long and the short of it. Let's deal with that over, Tymal, shall we? Because we've all been there. It just looked, when that 5 wides went, I think a lot of bowlers would have thought, I'm not sure that he's fancying this very much.
No, and it was definitely the case of the England batsmen. They sniffed a bit of blood as well, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Got themselves, they tucked in. It was a big over, wasn't it? I think, what did I write down? There was 51 needed off 4, so the game was definitely in the balance going into that over. If anything, you're fancying South Africa to close it out with Ngidi and Rabada still with a couple of overs to bowl. So they obviously were probably going to eye up that over whatever happened, and Bjorn Hendricks definitely gave the English batsman more than a helping hand, especially when you bowl 5 wides in the manner that he did.
Yeah, doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't, and it kind of just sets up what's to come after that.
It was interesting because there's no doubt that the pitch was just sticking a little. I mean, the spinners found a bit of turn. The bowlers that just took the pace off the ball with slower balls and so on were harder to hit. But Hendricks seemed to go for the old-fashioned ploy of just trying to bowl full pace and get it full. So, in fact, tactically, I think it's fair to say that he made a mistake.
Yeah, and I think it was a good cricket wicket for T20 cricket. Obviously, 180 runs was chased down, so it wasn't a low-scoring affair, but there was a little bit of turn, as you say. Slower balls were gripping a little bit, so there was plenty there for the bowlers. But yeah, you're right, Hendricks didn't get it right all in all today, and that happens sometimes. And that might be another factor to consider when these guys, Hendricks included, haven't played a lot of cricket. Obviously, He's wasn't one of the South Africans that has been offered the IPL. He's only been playing domestic cricket. Not sure how much T20 domestic cricket they've been playing. I know they've been playing 4-day cricket. So there's a little bit of rustiness definitely creeping around, and that's something that England, definitely don't have the excuse of, coming back off a pretty much full international summer, and then quite a lot of the guys being at the IPL also.
Yeah, I think so. That's a fair point to make. As far as that over goes, Andy, statistically, 28. That's a lot of runs. How does it stand?
It is a lot of runs, Agus. That's more than you ever conceded in a whole county season, isn't it?
Possibly.
It was the second most expensive over by a South African bowler in T20, behind Wayne Parnell's epic 32-run over against England in 2012 at Edgbaston, and the joint third most expensive by any bowler against England. His overall analysis, 0 for 56, also the third most expensive by a South African bowler in T20s. So it was very bad. And in terms of bad overs when defending, as you said, the 17th over, as Tamal said, the game was probably slightly in South Africa's favour at that point, went going for 28. It's the joint 5th most expensive over in the second innings of a T20 international, out of over 17,000 overs bowled.
Poor chap. Well, so he doesn't dent his confidence too much. Tamal, let's talk selection, because it was an interesting call by England today, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because they don't play a lot of T20 cricket, and we know that the T20 World Cup is going to be played in India in October next year. And with so few games, and the fact that they are actually going on tour to India, and they'll play a handful of games there in the spring, how do you juggle the selection when you're in somewhere like South Africa, which is about as far removed from playing cricket in India as it comes? How do you juggle selecting a team that you think is the right team for South African conditions, as opposed to picking a team and saying, look, this is the balance that we're going to play predominantly, and including the World Cup that's coming up. So therefore, we're going to play Moeen Ali, I would say, because I'm pretty sure that he'd be looking to play in the World 20 the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think going from the way Owen Morgan has spoken over the last couple of years and how teams have been constructed, he often just tries to win the series that's put in front. And they pick a squad for a series, and then they try and win the series. They don't try and mess around too much, looking too far ahead. As you said, I think I read, apologies if I got it wrong, I think the tour to India has been changed slightly. I think they've gotten rid of a test match and added a couple of extra T20s. So
that's the plan, yes.
I think there might be 5 T20s now. So that's a proper dress rehearsal as such, isn't it? Because you're in the backyard of where you're going to be for the World Cup. You'll take a squad accordingly, and then you can maybe have a bit more of a look at players, because obviously it's a 5-match series plus the ODIs as well. So I think England will just be trying to win this series, get the guys back together again. So it's the first time that they've ever played Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer in the same international T20 side, which is, you'd be surprised. I was definitely surprised at that. Ben Stokes didn't even know it himself. I saw in pre-match when he was saying. So they're using the opportunity just to get what they feel is the best 11 from the 15 that they've got with them right now, and get those out in the park. If they go and win again the next game on Sunday, then maybe Monday they'll experiment a little bit more.
I just wonder, because I felt they picked perhaps possibly the wrong side anyway here. I don't know about you, but it just seemed as soon as the spinners started bowling, as if there was that little bit of grip there. They were hard to hit, and I wonder if actually, in hindsight, they might have played Moeen anyway.
Yeah, potentially, but Moeen hasn't been in the greatest of form, has he? He didn't play an awful lot for England in one-day cricket in the summer, and he wasn't maybe as convincing as what he would like. He then went to the IPL. I think he only played 1 or 2 games for RCB in the whole of the IPL, so he hasn't come into this series in South Africa, in the form of his life, in red-hot form. So that will have to come into it. We're not there in South Africa. We don't know what's going on at training. We don't know who's looking good. We don't know who's looking bad. Tom Curran could have had the best week's training anybody's ever seen, and it would have been a no-brainer from a selection point of view. That's obviously with all the COVID rules and everything. I'm sure you would have loved to be in Cape Town right now and not sat in your living room in Leicestershire, but unfortunately that's not the case. But look, as I said, England are very fortunate with the squad that they've got in front of them, and as I say, there's still 5 matches left in this tour across the 2 formats, and I'm pretty confident you'll see most guys that have been selected in the squad play at some point.
Well, I hope we see Wood versus Nokia for a start, because they're both obviously. Nokia bowls a serious pace, and obviously we know that Mark Wood does too. But unfortunately, neither of them played today.
Yeah, definitely. Nokia was a real standout in the IPL. He was signed as a replacement player. He wasn't even supposed to be in the IPL at all in the first place. Doesn't really have a reputation as a T20 player. He plays Test cricket for South Africa. Pretty sure the IPL was his first ever franchise tournament. And then he really burst onto the scene, bowling some of the fastest balls ever in IPL. So he hopefully we get to see him, because as you say, everybody likes watching fast bowling. Mark Wood included from an England point of view, Jofra Archer. Hopefully that will add another dimension to the series. Obviously the next match goes to Pal, so it'll be a different wicket, a different pitch, different ground, different atmosphere. Hopefully we get a little shake up in the sides for an entertainment point of view as well.
Yeah, Andy Zoltzman.
Well, I think there should be a new law in cricket that if you've got bowlers who can bowl mid-90s, you're legally obliged to play them, because that's what everyone wants to watch. I'm sure Tamal would be hugely in favour of that as well, 100%. From a personal point of view. One thing England, I don't know if they'll be concerned about it, but the batting power play, just 34 for 3. It's the third time in the last 7 T20 internationals they've scored at less than a run a ball in the power play, having not done so in 30 matches dating back to the 2016 World T20 final. So there's been just a few, though, a couple in the summer and then today, where they didn't get the aggressive, rapid start they've been used to. So, and a lot of that was due to the debutant Linda, who had 2 for 2 from 2 overs at the end of the power play. He was the earliest on debut. The earliest South African bowler has taken a T20 international wicket in his career since Rory Kleinfeldt got a first ball wicket way back in 2008. So a promising debut for South Africa.
And interesting that he came on to bowl that first over at Jason Roy, who of course we know loves the pace of the ball coming on and so on. So they deliberately bowled a spinner action, which again, as we look way ahead to the World T20, you can definitely see that being a tactic, can't you, Tumal?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, there's so much data, there's so much analytics that goes on in cricket. Every team will be looking at what matchups might favour us, what the opposition do well, what they don't do well, field placings. I'm sure you'll see some quirky field placings. The way the game is going, it's obviously a lot more that way inclined, as I said, with analysts. And every game you play in professional cricket, if you're playing on TV and there's somebody there, coding the game, your trends and your patterns, they come up. So if you do have a weakness, it will be tested. Not saying it will be successful all the time, but if a team feels it can get an advantage, as South Africa fought today, by opening up with a bit of spin, they're going to certainly give it a good crack.
Yeah, it's not something that's been a problem for Roy. Certainly recently, it's the first time he's been out against spin in the power play since January 2017 in T20s. And in the innings since then, 11 times he's faced spinners in power plays, and until today he'd scored 98 runs and not been out from 54 balls. So actually he's been quite productive against spin early on, but just played a loose shot today. It was his 5th duck in T20s, putting him clear of Alex Hales with most ducks by an England opener in T20 international cricket.
A word about Sam Curran then. I don't know. You watch him bustling in and bowling at his. Well, I think he's a bit more than what he used to be. I think when he first came in and played international cricket, I think he has put a yard of pace on, whatever that means, since then. But those are his best figures for England. Three for 28. Lots of variety now, isn't there? Quite cunning over the wicket, round the wicket, and that sort of variety of slower balls as well.
Yeah,
and length. Actually, he got a wicket with a bouncer today.
He did. He got a couple of wickets. With bouncers. He doesn't bowl express pace by any means. He's not a tall man either, but he uses his bumper well. So you get one. You're allowed to bowl one and over, and it's important that if you're not the quickest bowler, you don't want to be predictable if you're putting the ball in and around a length. You've got to use your short ball as a surprise ball. And he's come into this series on the back of a really impressive IPL. I think the way Chennai Super Kings and MS Dhoni used him, he opened the bowling, he often was batting up in the top order as well. He was given a lot of responsibility and he stood up to that well during the IPL. So I'm sure that's given him a lot of confidence coming into the international side, where he probably previously has been on the outside looking in terms of white ball cricket. And now, as I say, on the back of a really impressive IPL with the bat and ball, he's taken his game up to another level for me.
Yeah. Let's just give Andy a little bit of a moment to look up Ben Stokes' record in international T20s, bowling-wise we're talking here, because he didn't bowl again today. And it's interesting. I mean, he often doesn't bowl, and then he often doesn't bowl very much, and then suddenly he comes on and bowls a huge long spell in a test match that can change a game, of course, like Heading a couple of years ago. Have you got sort of the knowledge of what's happening with Ben Stokes and how fit he is for bowling? Because it is odd. He hasn't played that many international T20s, in fact, but not to bowl Ben Stokes at all.
It's rare that he doesn't bowl in a T20 game. It's only the second time since 2014 that he's not bowled. As you say, he's not played that many. It's only his 27th T20 international today, and only his fourth in the last 2 years. But we've seen sort of England, in all formats, really using him in a sort of targeted fashion. There'll be times where he doesn't bowl. Generally, in one-day international cricket. In fact, it's only once in the last almost 4 years, since January 2017, that he's bowled a full 10-over spell in one-day internationals. And in tests, there'll be long periods when they don't use him. But as you say, they do bring him on often when nothing is happening for the other bowlers. We saw it in the first test. I think it was in Sri Lanka a couple of winters ago. We saw it at Old Trafford with a fierce spell of bumpers that turned the second test in the series England's way up there. So he in terms of his overall workload, it's not that much. But then he has these occasional marathon spell. So when you look at his statistics in terms of wickets per match, he doesn't rate that highly, but the impact of his bowling, yes, I think is significantly higher than just looking at his bald average or regularity of wickets.
Yeah, fair point. Well, no doubt about the man of the match today. 86 from 48 balls. He finished it with his fourth six. Johnny Bairstow's been talking to Stefan Schemmelt.
Johnny, well batted. What is it about you playing special innings in Cape Town?
Yeah. I don't really know, to be honest with you. It seems to be one of my favourite grounds, like you say, and I quite like it being my favourite ground. It's an amazing place to come and play cricket. Like the sun going down there over the mountain, and it was just unfortunate that we didn't have a special crowd in to witness a game like that, because they would have thoroughly enjoyed it. 34
for 3, then needing 51 from 4 overs. At those moments, did you feel like you were second favourites?
I think that with the strength and depth that we know we've got in the batting lineup, you're always in with a chance. It needs a partnership, doesn't it? And we built that partnership, Ben and I, and then went on from there. So, look, what was the stat that you mentioned with 4 overs to go? Sorry,
51 needed from 4.
Yeah, see, I didn't even really register that. It was we were pretty happy with where we were at. Obviously, we needed one big over, and we know that the guys that we've got coming in can clear the ropes.
Was that you saying that you should be opening the batting, or does it prove that the middle order is actually the best place for you?
Look, I want to be playing cricket for England. That's first and foremost. Look, as I don't mind. It's a case of as long as I'm contributing and putting in match-winning performances, whether that be opening the batting, whether that be batting at 4, batting at 6 previously, like I have done, then so be it.
So Johnny Bairstow facing a few bouncers from Stefan Schemmelt. He seemed he played quite a straight bat there, Steph.
He was in a very good mood, actually, Aggers. And it's good to see, isn't it, for Johnny Bairstow, because he's had a reasonably difficult year in international cricket, particularly in Test cricket. But also when you think that he went to the IPL, he didn't do a great deal wrong and he lost his place in the Sunrisers Hyderabad team. So if you wanted to pick someone from the England team to get a score, it is Johnny Bairstow, especially think as well. He is sort of shunted up and down. He sort of fills the holes wherever England find a gap. He's the man who they asked to do that job. And yeah, he was in very, very good form tonight. And like you say, he was playing a straight bat on that question over where he should bat in the batting order, as he probably will do when he's just got a score.
Yeah, because as he said, all he actually wants to do is play. I know that's a straightforward answer, but it's the truth, really, isn't it?
It is, especially when he's lost his place in the Test side. And he must also know as well that there's always pressure on a batsman's place in this England white ball setup when you look at the players that they've left out. Sam Billings tonight, Joe Root not even in the squad. And so, yes, all those batsmen do know that they just want to play. They'll take the spot however it comes, but particularly from Bairstow when he has had experience in different teams, the England Test team and at the IPL, of sitting on the sidelines over the past 12 months.
Yeah. And Owen Morgan, has he had much to say after that?
Very honest, actually. Owen Morgan, he said that despite the win, England were pretty average. He said that there was only 2 or 3 players that actually put their hand up and really put in a performance. He highlighted their effort with the ball. He said he thought that at times they bowled too full, and he said that being 30 odd for 3 just wasn't good enough. He said that top order, they didn't put partnerships together, which is what you have to do when you're chasing a score like that. Now, of course, he admitted that he's still happy to come away with a victory, saying that Ben Stokes and Johnny Bairstow really dragged them back into it. So from that point of view, he's happy. But what he's saying is, look, I want to see some improvements over the next couple of games, even if we don't get the results, because he's in the back of his mind, he's thinking we're trying to put a team together to win that World T20. And really, you'd have to say tonight, this is England saying, this is our formation, this is our top 6, these are the bowlers. Yes, we might swap someone in or out, maybe Moeen, depending on the conditions, but these are the 11 that have been given the chance. And it sounds like Owen Morgan isn't best pleased with some of them.
Fair enough. Well, honest is the best way if they're going to really lift that World T20, isn't it? Thanks, Stefan. And Andy, any more thoughts from you regarding that run chase?
Well, it was, as we talked about, England started poorly. They scored 149 runs after the fall of the 3rd wicket to win. That's the most England have scored after being 3 down to then win a T20, and the joint 3rd most by any team in the international history of this format. They got 54 runs in the last 4 overs. That's the 2nd most England have hit in the last 4 overs to win a T20 game. They've now won 6 of their last 8 completed T20 internationals, and 4 of their last 5 chasing, 3 of which have been in their highest 5 chases today. 180 to win. It's their 5th highest chase in this format.
And they'll be raising a glass, I suspect, to Burr and Hendricks for the contributions in that run chase. Thank you, Andy.
Anti-man of the match.
Yes. Thank you very much indeed for that.